aspects of themselves or their souls in a human body. That is this anything that you kind of elaborated on at all?
Well, there is the human body is cherished for many reasons, and one of them, I believe, is because of what the thought you're just expressing, is that the gods created this body as a vehicle for all these incredible things to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally view the body, the Kabbalists talk about this too, they view the body as the tree of life that the soul uses to scale the ladder or stairway to heaven.
Yeah, very interesting. And, considering your background also in researching the Bible and stuff like this, do you in any way connect, these beings or this race with the Nephilim that is referred to in the Bible?
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely. We are definitely always seeming to run up against these Nephilim, the children of the Anunnaki, the offspring of the daughters of men and the gods, and very often you find that they're protecting or withholding these secrets from us, and part of the reason why is because they don't want rivals. They never have wanted humankind to really activate all the latent capabilities that are within us.
Yeah.
In fact, that's the basic conflict always on this planet is, in going back to the Sumerian mythology, you had on the one hand Enki, the creator god, the creative technology god, who sought to have humankind activate these latent abilities and even match and possibly even exceed the abilities of the Anunnaki or the gods. And he's opposed by his half-brother Enlil, who seeks to keep humankind at the level of slaves and sex objects. I mean, in America, it's easy to pull them apart because the drama still continues, where you have, traditionally, the Republicans want to go up with the military budget and down with the education budget, whereas traditionally the Democrats want to go up with the education budget and down with the military budget.
Yeah.
There's the two sides right there just playing out this drama on the world stage even today.
Yeah. Fascinating. And, one thing that kind of also comes to mind when you say the word plant is of course, energy and the creation of energy, because this, at least to my own, research that I've done on this, on these kinds of topics, it seems like the energy, I don't know if this is a spiritual energy or the energy of intent that is involved in our human life, so to speak, but there seems to be a connection in regards to how we focus on things and even of course our intent. And do you have any what's your take on that in regards to energy for these beings that we are kind of serve them with our energy, so to speak?
Yeah, that gets into can be kind of a disturbing kind of a notion when you say, well, wait a minute, what you're saying there is that humankind is literally food for the gods.
Yeah.
But we're not thinking of the gods, I don't think, in this manner as, well, they may be, but generally I'm not thinking them as humanoid-type forms.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no question that from that perspective, you can go two different ways with that. You can say Earth is you have plants that are here on this planet, and to continue this pun further just a little bit, the word plant is a spy term. Something is planted.
Yeah, sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
Or something is put there by somebody that is tending and nurturing them. Okay, so you have a cultivator there or a gardener. And what if this gardener who planted us here is doing so to grow energy?
Yeah.
As you're saying, literally grow this food. Then are we in fact not on a planet? Are we in fact then on a plantation? It gets back to that whole idea.
Yeah.
But then service is something that is certainly part of the Holy Grail code, and it's something that many people intend to do. They hope to be able to serve other people, serve one another. That's kind of the golden rule, right? And so that does get a little bit touchy and a little bit disturbing because it suggests that maybe there is somebody up there harvesting. And in fact, the book of Revelation does say that at the end times, souls will be harvested. It plainly says that.
Yeah.
So we have to continue with this metaphor because it's very serious in terms of its implications.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, that's kind of the paranoid part of it, where there might be an overseer here who is manipulating us in this way.
Yeah.
But then the positive side of it is that, well, wait a minute, there must be instructions for what this plant is capable of doing, the energy that it's capable of bringing into it and transmuting. What can it possibly become?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the questions that I'm starting to focus on.
Yeah, and you mentioned, the Holy Grail, and again, I guess we can take this on so many different levels, on a symbolic level, and of course on the real physical level, that this is an object and so forth. But I've heard a few kind of relating the Holy Grail to kind of the Kundalini energy within the human body, and there again we get to the connection with energy, and as our to awaken this energy within our body. Is this something that you researched too?
Yes, absolutely. I'm more and more interested in the whole subject of Kundalini and raising the Kundalini, and of course understanding that it's the basis for many of the world's religions. When, for example, if the goddess Athena is standing with the serpent coiled at her feet, coiled Kundalini. When Moses lifts the serpent of healing in the wilderness, that's a reference to Kundalini. When Jesus is compared to the serpent that Moses lifted, that's also a reference to Kundalini. And the fundamental problem that we all have right now is that we all have this incredible tower or stairway to heaven that is our body, but none of our elevators go to the top. None of our elevators go to the top. We just haven't fully activated our Kundalini as individuals or as a culture or a civilization.
Yeah.
As a consequence, our pineal gland is left unactivated, and our hearts aren't made of light. We haven't achieved that state of lightheartedness, which goes back to that intention you're talking about a moment ago. In the Egyptian mystery schools, they spent their whole lives preparing for existence in another dimension.
Yeah.
And the way that you entered that other dimension, the dimension of the blessed, was you had a heart that was made of light. You entered the state, they called it Mat, or cosmic order, when on Judgment Day your heart is weighed against a feather. And if your heart is lighter than the feather, you go on.
Yeah.
And so this focusing our attention on matters of the heart and becoming light-hearted beings is our entryway to these other dimensions, but on the earth plane, it provides tremendous benefits, both health-wise, longevity-wise, intelligence-wise. And so it's I think very important that we really begin to really focus on this idea, focus on the heart as the place of transformation.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have any kind of techniques or to do this kind of stuff? Do you use kind of meditation or anything like this?
Well, one of the main things that I recommend to people is adding the word balance to their vocabulary. Balance is the key word. They always say moderation in all things, but I think balance is another very important part of that. And what we need to balance is our mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional activities.
Yeah.
If we evaluate our lives and find out, well, I'm spending an awful lot of time reading books and doing the mental stuff, but I'm not really connecting with myself emotionally, right away I'm out of balance.
Yeah.
And then if we figure in the physical and the spiritual with that as well, it's kind of like if each of those four areas, mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional, is a tire and we're driving a car, if one or more of our tires is off the road, where are we going?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
And so that's the most basic place to begin to achieve this kind of state that's going to really open us up and make ourselves a bridge or a platform for this other dimension.
Interesting. Tying this back to, again, stuff like the Holy Grail and things like this, how do you view all of this? Do you view this message of the Holy Grail kind of like this, multi-dimensional almost message that you can take stuff on a symbolic level to learn about stuff that you can implement on a even spiritual or even physical level?
Absolutely. I mean, as you're saying, you can interpret the Grail stories on the literal, the historical, the metaphorical, the allegorical, symbolical.
Yeah.
And especially the anatomical. And that's where we have to focus this, is that anytime I'm in myth or scripture and I see the word temple, I automatically think the human body, the human plant.
Yeah.
Because that's all myth and scripture, including the Holy Grail myths, are trying to tell us about our body and how we can activate these latent capabilities within our body to achieve increased consciousness, higher intelligence, longevity.
Interesting. Because there is this old, almost like a maxim that says, so above, so below, and that's the kind of thing I was, going for there in that paragraph, that it seems to be this reflection in all things all the time, that you can interpret it on a symbolic level and then you can find it almost on a physical level. Because I think one thing that you do so very, very good and that is very interesting is that you kind of can find correlations in the ancient, in the past of stuff, kind of like the Holy Grail, but then we can interpret that and kind of utilize that metaphor and use it in our lives as a spiritual lesson, or as a spiritual principle almost. Do you agree on that?
Yeah, I do, and that kind of returns us to the Da Vinci Code and the Holy Blood, Holy Grail kind of whole bloodline idea. I think that it's really great that information got out the way it did on such a mass level, but it focused everybody's attention on just one small aspect of the Grail, the whole bloodline idea.
Yeah.
What I kept hoping for in the film and even the book and what's happening now in the aftermath is that people will begin to look and see, okay, well, yeah, focusing on the Grail as a bloodline is really interesting, but what's it really doing for me?
Yeah.
Nothing. Nothing.
Yeah.
But the quest for the Grail is always the quest for our highest good, and so it's finding ways that we can connect ourselves with the innermost mysteries of the Grail, which is, again, to repeat, focused on achieving that state of awakened heart, or that heart of light that is essentially the Grail, because once you have the heart of light, you're transmuting your own blood into what the Grail mysteries refer to as the blood of Christ, which is not blood that was spurting from Jesus' body. It's a medical condition. It's a medical state.
Yeah.
When your blood is cleansed and purified, and you have this higher energy pulsing through your veins and feeding your entire body. The result of that is increased intelligence, and the longevity, and all the things we've been talking about.
Yeah. Very interesting. And one thing also that you, of course, do very interesting aspect of your research is regarding etymology and kind of what I guess others refer to as wordplay. You find different. I guess you track through different languages, kind of the similarities between words. Why don't you talk a little bit about that, if you can?
Sure. That's a really key part of my research, is paying attention to the repetition of names and place names. I believe that there was an original pre-flood language, as talked about in the Bible, the language that existed before the time of the Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
And they who possessed this knowledge, according to esoteric Hebrew legend, had control over all the elements.